Okay, so let's just jump right in. What if I told you there is a 500-mile-long city hiding in plain sight on the US map? I mean, a nearly continuous urban corridor that is, without a doubt, the economic and political heart of the entire country. Today, we're unpacking the incredible geography of the Northeast Megalopolis. To really get a sense of the scale we're talking about, just look at these numbers. This tiny, tiny sliver of land, just 2% of the entire United States, is home to a staggering 17% of the total population. It is one of the most densely packed regions on the entire planet.
And that 17%? Well, that translates to over 50 million people. To put that in perspective, that is more than the entire population of Canada, all packed in to what is essentially a single interconnected urban sprawl.
No, this isn't science fiction. We're talking about a real 500-mile stretch of cities, suburbs, and towns that basically operate as one massive unit. It runs all the way from Boston, right through New York and Philadelphia, and down to the nation's capital in Washington, D.C. So the big question is, how on earth did this happen? Well, the answer lies in this really powerful geographic principle we can call the golden horseshoe effect. And to really understand it, we actually have to look north for a second.
That's right, Canada holds the key. Believe it or not, a very similar and very dense region up in Canada shows us exactly why the U.S. East Coast was practically destined for this kind of incredible growth. See, in Canada, nearly 1 in 4 people lives in the small crescent of land around the Great Lakes called the Golden Horseshoe. Why there? Well, because the lakes provided super easy trade routes and the land around them was incredibly fertile. The U.S. East Coast, it followed the exact same logic. Access to the Atlantic Ocean and major rivers created the absolute perfect conditions for settlement. You know, early settlers weren't just picking random spots on a map. They founded cities like New York, right at the mouth of the Hudson River, and Philadelphia, where the Delaware and Schuylkill rivers meet. This gave them an enormous head start in trade, in shipping, and in industry. And once a place starts booming, people just follow. So over the centuries, these powerful city-states just grew outwards. Their suburbs expanded, and then their suburbs expanded, until eventually the lines between Boston, New York, and Philly began to completely blur. They just sort of bled into one another, creating the megalopolis we see today. But its historical origin, that's really only half the story. The reason this supercity continues to thrive today is all about what we can call the perfect hub logic. It's all about connectivity. This quote frames it perfectly. In most places, a 500-mile distance is a major barrier, right? It's something you have to overcome. But here, the close proximity of so many major centers actually becomes an accelerator for economic growth. Think of it like this. Atlanta has the busiest airport in the world. Now, that's not because Atlanta itself is the most popular destination on Earth. It's because it's strategically located within a 2-hour flight of 80% of the U.S. population. It's a perfect hub. The East Coast Megalopolis is a ground-level version of that exact same idea. You can travel from the financial capital of the world in New York City to the political capital in Washington, D.C. in just a few hours by train. This seamless connectivity between money and power creates an absolutely unstoppable financial and manufacturing engine. So this incredible interconnectedness, it's the core of its power. But it also raises a really critical question. What happens when the very geography that made you so powerful suddenly decides to turn against you? And this brings us to the double-edged sword of the megalopolis, its immense coastal vulnerability. You see, the very feature that gave it a head start, the Atlantic Ocean, is now its single greatest threat. Let's go back to Canada for just a moment. When Britain was choosing Canada's capital way back in the 1800s, they specifically chose Ottawa. Why? Because it was far inland and much more defensible from a potential U.S. invasion. They prioritized security over coastal access. The East Coast Megalopolis is the exact opposite. This entire 50 million person corridor containing the nation's economic and political nerve centers is sitting right on the coast, completely and totally exposed. This coastal geography makes the region uniquely vulnerable to modern threats like rising sea levels and more frequent extreme weather events. I mean, just look at the 1964 Alaska earthquake. It showed how coastal land can literally sink or rise by dozens of feet in an instant. The stability of the coastline is simply not guaranteed. It all comes down to a simple, unavoidable truth.
Whether we are building a city, a nation, or an entire civilization, geography always has the final say.
The story of the megalopolis is the perfect example of this. The coast is why it was built, its proximity is how its people move, but its future survival now depends entirely on how we respond to that exact same coastal geography. It's a powerful reminder that, in the end, the map really can be destiny.